Hello, fabulous human. Welcome back to my little corner of podcast land. I had the desire the other day to have a conversation that focused on the more energetic, mystical, and magical aspects of being. And with that in mind, two people popped into my head. The first of those was Denise Elizabeth Byron, who I have known for a number of years now. And the second was my bestie, Kathy Price, who, of course, dabbles in these areas on a daily basis. So when I pinged them both a message, they leapt to attention and agreed to my delight to come on with me and chatter with you today. For those of you who aren't familiar with Denise, Denise is a psychic, a visionary guide, and a mentor with over 30 years' experience. And she uses astrological patterns to illuminate each client's unique pathway to more confidently embody the magic of their life purpose. I have worked with Denise on numerous occasions, and I can attest to her fabulousness. And Kathy, if you are a listener of my podcast for any amount of time, you will have heard Kathy's luminous tones across the airwaves. But if you aren't familiar with her, Kathy's business is called Point of Balance, and she has been studying and researching the world of energetic modalities for a number of years now. The aim of her work is to help human and animal systems that she's working with, whichever of those applies, to find its own unique point of balance and to help itself come back into health and vitality on every level, be that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Today, I am delighted to share our chattering with you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, and I will see you on the other side. Enjoy. So, as you all know, the podcast is a hugely selfish endeavor where I just get to have ideas and then invite people on for conversations that I want to have and talk about. Yeah. And today is absolutely no exception. I am here with the amazing Denise Elizabeth Byron and Kathy Price. Thank you for joining me.
Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
letting
That's
us.
amazing.
It's so exciting.
It's so exciting. Denise, this is you popping the podcast cherry for my podcast too, isn't it? I mean, you've been...
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And
Yay.
Kathy, you've been around the hood a couple of times.
Yeah, people are
already.
getting sick and tired of seeing me now. They're going, oh God, she's here again. She must be scraping the barrel a bit here. You know.
Steady the ship. Steady the ship. Like, don't bring me into this, okay? Like, so, Denise, in case people aren't familiar with your fabulousness in the group, because we're live in Joyride at the moment, and because you are new to my particular pod, you are a psychic, a visionary guide, and a mentor. Is that how you would best describe yourself? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And you can throw in that astrology is one of the main components that I use. It's not the only one, like you
Yeah.
both here.
Yes.
We have toolboxes that we carry around with us. And so whenever we're working with someone, we're searching for whatever tools. But most of the time, I'll start with astrology just because it's such a fabulous way to dive into the soul's journey. It's just it's a wonderful portal. So yeah, that would be the only thing I would add.
So cool. And both Kathy and myself have had your expertise and wisdom shared through the astrology lens and others a few times now. I have the regular thought that I'm like, oh, Kathy, I think it's time for me to like talk to Denise, and she's like, yes, no, it is, yeah, it is.
And how I wish we could just all have tea in the same room, but this is pretty good. I have my tea. I have my tea in my ladybug mug.
I have my coffee in actually what is, I think, half a pint glass, which isn't quite as cool as your ladybug mug, but anyway.
I'm the healthy one with the water, okay?
No, I have water too. I have water.
I love it.
Okay.
Oh,
whose water jar is bigger? No,
that's true.
Okay, we're going to start that competition.
Yeah. So, Kathy, you're in the energy realm of work. Do you want to describe what you do as well before we kick in? My favorite question.
Can someone else please describe? Because I always get confused what I do. No,
I
My
actually
work is
heard of a meme. So I'm going to talk over the top of you. I saw a meme recently that said, "How would you describe yourself?" And they said, "Usually verbally, but I can also do it via dance." And I thought, well, yeah, that's what I'm going to say from now on.
yes,
Or
absolutely.
telepathically. Or telepathically. Why don't we just do it
Exactly.
telepathically? Let's just up level the whole thing. We're just going
Yeah.
to communicate telepathically
Tune-
for the
tune-
whole entire podcast.
They've all got the message. I can see by the look on their face, they know who I am, they know what I do. So I need to describe no further. But just in case somebody was switched off at that moment, yeah, my work is energetic in the sense that we are energy. And when I work with the system, would be it an animal or a person, the way I believe that I'm working is I'm helping the system find the information it needs to heal itself. So I'm not doing any healing per se. It's not me. I'm a facilitator. And for me, the only healer ever is the system, whether you take a drug or have an operation or whatever. So I'm just a facilitator, conditioning the field being the unified field that connects everything, making it easier for the system to find the information it needs to heal itself. That's probably confused everybody, but there we go.
Not at all. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. So the reason, apart from obvious ones where I just really enjoy hanging out with you both,
Yeah.
for this particular podcast was I was reading something which pops up periodically, and it's the use of the word woo. And often people use it as a disclaimer before they launch into something which they consider to be slightly left of center or outside of the normal scope of things. And it will sound something like, "I know this is a bit woo, but this might be a bit woo," or "I don't know if this is too woo for you, but," and then it follows into like a paragraph or two of whatever it is that they want to say. And to me, I have an issue with that from the point of it kind of others the conversation of energy and intuition and things which we perhaps can't explain in a really analytical or a way that is acceptable to some of the powers that be. And to my mind, actually, we need to stop doing that, because it is the othering in and of itself that makes us believe that it's something special or unique or separate from our regular everyday experience. And in my work, I have a different conversation with energy that is much more based on words such as intuition and self-trust and all of those types of conversations about if you're sensing something in your own body. Oftentimes we have this idea about how something is going to show up, how information is going to show up to us. And when it doesn't show up like that, we're very mistrustful of it because we have lost a sense of ourselves in relationship to our intuition. And so the reason that I wanted to bring both of you on is that your work is so much centered in the realm of the intuitive and the energetic, and in part, like I know there's other parts to it as well. And I thought you'd be incredible people to bring into this conversation to talk about your experiences and how information shows up for you and what you consider to be part of the human capacity that is the shared experience for all of us, and how it is we would perhaps go about developing that for ourselves as well, which may or may not be relevant, but I thought that would be a fun conversation. What do you reckon?
That's quite a broad remit. Yeah.
It is.
Good.
It is. And go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
now here's the thing.
Yeah. You're the Aries, so maybe we have you start, Kathy, because you're.
I can lead us in because
Yes,
you've
Denise.
been talking about process, right? So for you, Denise, your process of working with someone and perhaps navigating your way through the world as far as paying attention to what's in front of you, but also paying attention to perhaps what is not so tangible. What does that look like for you? Like, how does that show up for you in a way that's describable?
Such a great question. And I just have to say, off to the side, excellent teaching method. Pick on the student who's trying to volunteer the other one. Well done. Well done. Yeah, that's good. You did good. I'm very impressed.
I paid her. I paid her.
No, it's actually a really good question. How do I navigate the world? Personally, I'm going to just be really honest. I know I don't know any of the people who are with us right now, nor maybe the people listening later. So I'm going to be pretty vulnerable here. Um, I tend to be very selective about how much I am in the world. To be very blunt, it has been a bit of a life path to learn how to filter and learn how to create. I want to call it feeling protected, but not guarded. So, if that makes sense, like feeling the protection of not taking on things that are not mine to take on, or not being bombarded so much with all the different, because there's many realms that we exist in all the time, at least in my experience. Like, and I do want to say this about the word woo. I I've lived in that. That is my world. So I've lived in that my entire life most of the time. And I'm always surprised when someone brings it up. I was like, oh, right. I guess that makes me different. And I don't see myself as different. I see us all living in that realm. We're all there. It's just how do we want to navigate these different realms that are showing up? So, from a personal level, I'm cultivating my sensitivity because I want to be able to be as sensitive as I can with my clients and work, when I'm teaching and all those things. But I also equally have to cultivate the ability to be in the world and not take everything on. And I know for most sensitive people, and I'm going to just guess that 100% of the people listening or watching right now are highly sensitive people. um, Navigating this world that we have currently right now, um, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of fortitude, because our sensitivities are profound and I want them developed. And as you said, like, how can we bring them forward and not lose this beautiful connection to the other realms, to our intuition, which is a realm that I feel like exists in all of us, as well as other realms, whether it's the realms of spirit where people have crossed over, people in our lives, and or the realms of the divine or the realms of nature and the devas, and and of course our animal beloveds. I mean, they're existing in all kinds of realms at the same time. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I love I love who I am, and it's been a journey to get here. It's 6 or more decades. Do we count that first 10 as a decade? I'm never really sure.
Depends
I
on
mean,
the day.
technically it's a decade,
Yeah.
right? Anyway, but yeah, it's taken a while to get to this point. And I'm really I love being a sensitive person and I'm very careful. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the bottom line. I don't go out much. I mean, I do. I do. I did. I went out. I did. I went out on Thursday night. So here's what I do. I choose my venue. It's usually outside. I went to a farm where they have Irish dancing, and I met some friends. They're equally as sensitive. One of my friends playing the fiddle, and we sit and chat and have some wonderful food outside because it's easier when I'm outside. Like,
Mm.
it's much easier to be outside. There's more room for all that energy to disperse before it comes near me. And yeah, and I just immerse myself in the music and the beauty of being outside because it is really warm and beautiful finally here. So yeah.
Yeah. Can I
Not
ask?
rubbing
I
it
hope
in,
that
babe.
did that answer the question. Did I
Yeah,
even
there's
remotely
it's the
get
right or
close?
wrong. We're riffing, so
Okay.
so
All right.
anything goes.
Okay.
I have a question off the back of what you just said, because
Mhm.
for you, this has been something which has been a feature of your life and an awareness of your person since you were little, right? This is
Mhm.
something that you've grown up with. Were you always aware of what was yours and what wasn't yours?
Absolutely not.
And if
No.
not, how did that awareness grow? Because I think for a lot of people listening as well, there's this sometimes post recognition of, oh, I don't think that was my stuff. Like that was
Mhm.
something else that I was picking up on that didn't necessarily belong to me. And
Mhm.
there's also the question of that, which I've been exploring in a more creative way, which is like, what is my legacy as far as what was in my cells before I got here
Mm.
that I showed up with the anxieties, the sufferings, the yearnings, the desires
Mhm. Mhm.
that I now recognize playing out through my person that
Mhm.
aren't did not necessarily originate with me.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
really big question, but on a practical level, like what is we're just going in. What is how did you become discerning of that?
That's an excellent question. I think it's an ongoing practice, to be really blunt. I mean, to get really to the point. But I think I don't want to make an assumption, but has anybody here grown up with trauma in their life? Yeah. Trauma, unfortunately, many of us experience a lot of trauma, especially as children. Trauma teaches us immediately to not trust our body, not trust how we feel, not trust that that isn't ours. And so, I mean, and there's all kinds of traumas. There's capital T trauma, there's small t trauma, but um, growing up in a very challenging household, um, I was taking on everybody's stuff. That was just what it was because in order to survive, literally, like physically survive, I needed to be aware of my surroundings and I needed to know who was going to be off that day and where I was going to protect myself. That is a way of developing intuition, not, I think, a great way, because then you're right. We have to sort through what is mine, what is real, what is not mine. And so, honestly, that didn't happen probably till I was closer to therapy helps, right? Getting into my late teens and 20s and starting to look at the family system. And that honestly, from a spiritual level and in that deep psychic level, probably not till my 30s. And even then, I would say it's still an ongoing process of what is, and I ask that question. Let's say that, I'm sure some of you have this experience. You wake up in the morning and you don't feel great, and it's a process. Is this my body? Is my body not feeling well? Did I eat something? Did I not get enough sleep? Or was it that I was around someone yesterday who was going through something that they didn't reveal because it may or may not have been appropriate, but I have somehow psychically picked that up, processed it in my dreams, which of course are weird, and I can't remember them, but I know they weren't mine, right? And then I wake up in the morning with this gunk in my system, for a lack, I mean, that's a super technical term. The gunk in my system, and I need to clear it. So the question is it mine? Is this mine? And I get quiet and is this mine? And it's either a yes or a no. And then I'll move down that path. If I mean, I could give you an example. This morning I'm feeling very sad because a friend of mine died. And I woke up this morning feeling sad. I know that's mine, but I also know that there's a part of me, because of how I'm designed, that is also picking up other people's sadness around this friend's death. So in order to get through the day, I need to be able to say, you know what is my sadness? What is my grief process going to be today? How am I going to work with this? It's not that I don't care about the others, but I need to, and I think this is just, again, this is a personal thing, but how do I move that out of my field a little bit more? Because this is a process I need to go through. When we come together in a field, as you know, we're agreeing that we're going to have this experience together. Those of us that are highly sensitive, we are not necessarily in agreement with that. We're just picking something up. And so, anyway, that's part of how I want to answer your question. And then the other part about, I love what you said about what's in your cells before you get here. I love that so much because and this is where it gets interesting for me, and I'm sure for both of you, and I just want to sit and listen to you. I don't want to listen to myself talk too much, but this idea of energetic cells What about our energetic selves? What about our soul cells? There's our body and our DNA and our ancestors, and what is mine to work with in this lifetime. And so astrology that's why I pinpointed something I could utilize that says past life stuff was this. Here's something your soul wants to focus on in this lifetime. So guess what my soul wants to focus on in this lifetime? Feeling.
Oh, ugh.
Emotions, feelings, being sensitive. I'm like,
Did you have to? Did you have to?
So, yeah. So the question is, what is mine? And I mean, seriously, what is mine? That is the simplest way it's an everyday practice. So how have I mastered it? I have not mastered it. I practice it every day.
Love that. What I love as well is that you give yourself full responsibility to claim what you need to be able to navigate the day. Whereas a lot of people that I'm in conversation with as well, like, oh, I should go to that thing. I have to go to that thing. Oh, I need to do that thing, even though they know that, they come out of it feeling not great, or they're compromising themselves in some way. And potentially that resilience grows over time or shapeshifts depending on your start point in the day. And, it's like you said, something you're constantly navigating, but actually just giving yourself permission to go, I don't actually have to put myself in those spaces if they're not serving me. There is choice within this. And I love that.
It wasn't always like that though,
Yeah.
Jane. I mean, I'm almost 60 years old. I've had lots of years of not doing that, to the point where I do think the blessing of the 50s is you just don't care as much anymore. It's like, I'm not going to put myself in situations that are going to hurt me. I mean, literally hurt me. And when I say, the energetic hurt of being a highly sensitive person, we can learn. And absolutely, I do want to navigate the world. I'm actually enjoy meeting people and being out there. We can learn how to do that. And that's part of what both of you are doing, is you're helping people. And it's not just about resilience, because that's like pushing through something. It's about honoring, and both of you do this, honoring what do I feel, honoring what do I know. And then, there's going to be things we're going to do, right? There are things that we choose to do, because even if it's a stretch, because it's just part of what wants to happen in this dance that we're living. So we have to have tools. We have to be able to honor our body. We have to be able to honor our soul. And there's things I would say, but then I realize this is going to go out in the world. So so we'll just leave it at that. It's not a private conversation. Okay. But you get my point.
I totally get it. I totally get it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kathy, is there anything you want to speak to from what Denise said, or do you want to talk about your...
I was going to say, no. Okay. I'm just going to sit quiet here, because that was so awesome. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I say now? What do I say now? No, I think a couple of things. When you get to your 50s, discernment. You know what's right, you know what's yours, you know what's important, and you have the energy, the feel to say no, because you've got to this stage that the people pleasing sort of gradually slips away. And again, that's a trait, it's a pattern, whatever we've whatever we've been through, like you said, trauma with a big T or trauma with a little t. But it was interesting, because as you were speaking about when you were a child and trying to find what was yours and what wasn't, I was thinking, did I ever do that? Did I ever feel that? And I think, yes, I did. But for me, the way it came through was I felt how somebody was, and then I made a decision to act according to how I felt they were, to fit in with, to keep everything small. So it would be, I'd feel that energy of, oh, okay, they're there now. I need to change. I need to be this person. Or, oh, it's much happier now. I can be this person. So, because as you were speaking, I thought, I don't know if I've ever, had that feeling of that's not mine. because we work in different ways, and I might well have done, I don't know, but I thought that was the only the thing that I thought, yeah, no, I altered myself to fit with what I felt, put it that way. So yeah, that was that. But yeah, what was the question? Sorry, Jane, what was the question?
No, so let's ask you another one.
I have no idea.
So your process, and please, if I am saying anything incorrect about either of your, or otherwise, just jump
I
in.
will tell you, Jane.
Yeah,
I
know.
will tell you.
That was more for
Yeah.
Denise, just because she's
Okay. Okay.
but
It's like, not like, yeah.
But your process, Kathy, compared to perhaps Denise's process from a professional perspective, at least, is less information receiving. Would that be right to say? Like would it be fair to say, Denise, that when you work with people, you receive information that you're interpreting?
Yes.
And whereas Kathy, that's not, or hasn't been up until this point, at least, a part of your experience. So what is your model of energy work? Like, how does that show up for you? And how do you know when you're in that? Like, what creates doing a session compared to not doing a session?
Yeah, again, really good question. Most definitely, I'm going to say, I like the way that you moderated that to you're not receiving at the moment, because there is there is a bit of discombobulation going on, which is like, oh, should I, have I, whatever, because there have been moments when I've received information as I'm working. So for me, when I'm doing a session, it's purely intention, in the sense that I think of the person or the horse. The person has got in touch with me. It's that 9 o'clock. It's time for their session. And as soon as I start, my hands start tingling, and there's a connection comes from my heart. It's like I don't know what, it's a feeling through. It's like a going out, and then I know I'm connected.
So it's a quite physical feeling for you. There's an actual physical experience.
Actual physical. Every time I work, my hands tingle, and it varies with whoever I'm working with. And I am noticing some patterns, but it's so hard. And this is where we can bring in the woo bit as well, because it's so hard to try and define what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, in words that would be acceptable in a scientific manner, if you like, because you cannot do. I was having this conversation yesterday with Lily Wilson, who's a vet. And the thing is, you cannot do a controlled experiment. So if I've got somebody I connect with, I can either connect or I can't. But it's not as though I can have 5 people who, like when you do a drug trial, they might all be showing the same symptom, and some get the placebo and some get the actual drug. And then you see what happens. I'm either connecting or I'm not. It doesn't matter who they are or what they're showing. So this is where, and I'm like you, Janie, now that I'm trying to steer away from that, even though I've got it all over T-shirts. The woo is true. I'm trying to steer away from it because, as you said, it brings a feeling of, oh gosh, it's something out there, and people, it switches people off. And I love the word, I know that you use the word connection to realms, intuition, spirit, nature, divine, when you were talking. And this is the thing, how I work is through connection. And people say to me, how can I become connected? You are connected. You cannot not be connected. And this is about how we bring forward our interpretation and our perception of that connection, which is innate. Because we are energy, and yes, we can go into the science of that 99.999% of every atom is space, it's vibrating energy. And the field which connects us to each other and to the furthest universe is energy, and energy is information. So you cannot not be connected. So my work, I find, is at the very base level of a session, is about enhancing that connection of the system I'm working with, be it a person or an animal, to the field to find the information it needs to heal itself. So that's all about connection. And then other facets of my work, which may be more less about session and healing, but more about people understanding themselves, finding themselves, is about using that connection to understand why they do things, how to find answers, how to connect, how to sit in themselves, to have an awareness, understand what perception is. So it's about them having more knowledge about themselves, but also having a greater connection to the knowledge that is in the field, the information that is in the field. So it's not so much about system healing, but more about the system knowing. And everybody's individual. So obviously all of the information is individual, which again speaks to what you said, Jane, about, what were my cells before? And I do think that there's a train of energy that comes through, and that something that was from a previous generation can come through. We can exhibit for a reason. Are we meant to work with that and let it go? Because it's been shown, we can change past events. So that if we clear an energy strife, an energy blockage, whatever you want to call it, you're actually clearing the past as much as you're clearing yourself. And so those are the sort of facets of my work, is that I don't actually find the definitive, like with Denise, when she's doing her astrology. I think the first time you gave me the reading, it's like, how does she know that? And she just read me like a book. It's like, oh my God, am I that open that they can see who I am and what I've done? But it's not about, for me, finding the information. It's about allowing the system to find the information for itself.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Okay. So I just want to say, that this is what I love so much, because we all have this, and we are all connected. And so what you're offering and working with the connection to feel it, to know it, to be in it, that's what's going to make this world better.
Mm.
All the knowledge in the world is only good if you're going to utilize it, in my opinion. I mean, underneath it all, what we're all about is, I mean, at least in my opinion, is love. How am I working in the field of love? How are you working in the field of love, Jane? How are you working in that field? And we can bring that connection to other people. So, I just love what you do.
But I think what you just said there again, one of my sentences I always say is, we learn everything for a reason, but it's what we do with it that matters. Because exactly what you said, that the seeker of knowledge, and for me, the power of love is the greatest, because it's a high frequency. It does no harm. It opens things out. And it makes people feel better as well.
Yes.
And this is the thing about the connection to the world, is that it's been shown through heart math and places like that, where when human emotion is high, it affects the electromagnetic frequency of the whole world. So that if there's, they've only found this out unfortunately, through negative emotion or sadness, like the death of Princess Diana, or anybody, or the tsunami. They have GCI, Global Coherence Initiative, where they have random number generators all around the world, and they're just sending out
I
ones
love
and
how they
noughts.
make such a user-friendly name for it.
Yeah.
We're like, what?
I have to think every time I talk about this, going, okay, it's GCI, it's Global Coherence, and it's an RNG, it's a random number generator. And a number of times I get it wrong. But yeah, so it's throwing out ones and noughts. And what they found, it's recording all the time, was when they gathered the data in, that there was a change, that it became more ordered. So there were more ones than noughts or whatever. And that correlated in date to whenever there had been a massive worldwide emotional change. So it shows that we affect the world, every single person. And that's why I always say, if you want to change the world, change yourself. Because not only are you adding to the electromagnetic field, you're also affecting the next person that you meet. Because if your field is open and big and full of positive energy, The other person cannot fail but to feel that. How they choose to react to that is their choice. But you are putting that out there for the next person to connect to.
Mm. In line with what I asked Denise as well, as far as separating out what's mine and what's yours, and I know that your process is quite different. Have you ever identified, perhaps this is an imperfect languaging, but like a emotional hangover or a spiritual hangover after a session, or is it always just quite a clean transition in as far as what you're aware of?
Oh, good question. The only thing I've noticed, okay, there have been times when I've picked up information, inverted commas, when I've been doing a session and there's been strange words come, and when I've related them to the person, they've gone, oh my God, yeah, that means. And for me, I have no idea. But for me, no, the universe decided to show me this quite clearly one day, where I usually need a short gap between sessions, about 15 minutes. But for some reason, something ran on and I literally had to switch from one to the other. So I sort of said goodbye to one person and went straight into the other. And my hands changed immediately. The feeling in my hands. So it's unique, the feeling with each system that I work with. And then within that, there are changes. I don't know whether when the increase in feeling means there's more change happening with the system I'm working with. I'm not sure, because I don't ask questions. It's nothing to do with me in that respect. It's just, that's what I'm feeling, but I'm just connecting and here we go. But there has been many situations now where I have had feedback, and sometimes like it's my hand, it can get almost painful and it goes up my arms and it pulses and it's like, oh my goodness, this is a bit of a strong one going on here, folks. And then it's whether, I get feedback that something big has changed. I don't know, but it is unique. The connection is unique to each system, but I don't tend to get a hangover.
Very cool. Not that this is about me, so I don't want to spend too much time talking because you are both infinitely more interesting.
Oh,
But
do we have
just opposite, just to
sorry.
offer, I guess, another process, because I think that what we tend to do as listeners when we tune into these types of conversations, we're like, oh, that never happens for me. I don't have that experience, or my hands never tingle, and there is so much individual specification, I think, about how we tune in and connect to things energetically in the landscape and whatever it is that's relevant for us. And so for me, the way that I believe I tangibly experience connection is through writing. And I have only really allowed myself very recently, I'd say, this has always been a feature, but I've never really given it enough time of day for the voice to develop, where poetry especially is a way that things just come through me, and I will be outside or I'll hear something and I just need to write it down. It will just pour out in a really fast way. And so I just offer that as, again, very different from what you have both described, but still I've started to allow myself to trust that experience can be one that is valid, and that I'm not gaslighting myself into. I'm like, oh, I won't have, which we really easily can, And so I just allow myself to write now without the need to write for a purpose, which is like, this isn't about needing to show it to anyone, or it's not going anywhere necessarily. It might at some point, but at the moment it's a process. And I think I know as a child, what I've always been very sensitive to is landscapes, energy of landscapes and energies of spaces, that I think is obviously influenced by people. And because of the nature of the household I grew up in, I had labeled myself as something that was actually a product of my environment, not a product of my intrinsic self, which is anxious or fearful or afraid of the world in essence. And actually, when I left home, it took a while for that detoxification process to occur, to go, I don't think that was actually a part of me. I think I was absorbing all of this stuff. And because
Yes.
of my sensitivities, I didn't even recognize or have any sort of delineation between what was mine and what wasn't mine. And still within landscapes on my property, within landscapes down the road, I will walk and I'll be like, it's different here. It's like I just turn the corner and this is completely different. Or you go beyond the stables on our property, completely different. Like there's lines in the landscape where it's like, this is welcoming, this is not so welcoming. Or this is a place of rest, this is not a place of rest, this is a place of transit. And that's always been very obvious to me. One of the conversations that we've had most recently as part of a mentoring group that I've been a part of, and some of you will be, who are listening, have been in that group, we've been talking about communication with the landscape. And there's been tentative questions, especially around trees, because I'm a massive tree lover. And I felt like I get this communication from a tree, but like that can't be right. And we're like, well, why not? And the moment that you open it up, other people are like, well, actually, like I've got a really a favorite tree that I feel, and then it just sort of opens up this portal of everyone not gaslighting themselves anymore or feeling nuts about the fact that they have this connection with something which we've been trained out of. And to me, that's, again, a motivation for this conversation, which is the anomaly is not that. The anomaly is the other. The anomaly is if you're not experiencing communion in some way with this extra part of ourselves, because we are that, right? Like we are that. Everything is that. And that is magical at the same time as it is completely normal, I believe. Like they exist together. And so I shared this story, and here's me putting myself out there. There's a track up behind us, and we live on the base of I don't know if it's an extinct or dormant, but it's a volcano. It's been dormant for a very long time.
Yeah.
The forestry around it is incredibly lush and quite ancient. So there's very old fuchsia trees and there's very old trees that go up there. And one of the trees up the track that I walk is a big old macrocarpa tree. And the thing about macrocarpa trees is that they don't have a very long life because they're a massive tree with quite a shallow taproot. So eventually they get too top heavy and they fall over. So it's about 100 years that they live. And what is interesting is that up the track there is a whole host of very beautiful trees. And this particular macrocarpa tree is not one of the really beautiful ones. It's old and a bit like haggardy, and it's very big, but you can see that she's in her twilight years. And I was having a really rough day, and this tree just kept coming into my head. And I thought, I think I need to go for a walk. And it was also quite miserable. The rain was quite miserable. And in the afternoon, I took myself up there and I sat at the base of the tree. And I had the thought, maybe I'm supposed to be here for a reason. Like I even had my notebook. I was like, I'm ready. I'm like, okay. And then I just had this overwhelming feeling that the purpose of it was friendship. There was no transmission. The purpose was friendship. And that was enough. There was nothing to be said. There was nothing to be taken in any way. It was about shared space and comfort in that way. And I really felt that. That's what popped into my head. And that's actually what I needed in that moment. And I allowed myself to believe that was true. Because why not? Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the point where we can override ourselves and doubt ourselves. And to me, that was mystical, magical, and completely normal at the same time. Yeah, at the same time. So,
may I jump in?
Please.
You go, Kathy.
You
there
jump.
you go.
No, we're not going to argue now. You jump.
Okay. So is it okay if I share just a little snippet of your astrologies, both of you?
Please.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're open.
This is the clean version. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing, when I was talking about like connection, and you were saying, Jane, you were talking about connecting through creativity, basically, through writing. And Kathy, you were talking about energy. It's just like this, it's physical for you. There's a physical component, but it's vast. It's not you, basically what you kept saying. It's not me.
Absolutely.
It's something else. So Kathy, you have Mercury in Pisces. So communication comes to you kind of from the vastness. It's not personal. It's very transpersonal. It's very collective, right? And Jane, you have Mercury in Leo, the highly creative self, and poetry is of the heart, and Leo rules the heart. So, of course, your own experience is what really matters, but it is interesting to me, kind of from this side, to be able to look at the astrology and say, oh, if somebody was wondering where they might find that greater connection, I would say maybe look at their Mercury, maybe look at what sign that's in, aside from the sun sign or the rising sign or the moon, which they all have something. And then I was on a little journey with that. I thought, these two, Jane and Kathy, they are so connected. What is that? And I was like, their souls are on a similar path. You might do things very differently and you're very different people, but your souls, you're like souls, twin souls, right? You both have North Node in Virgo. It
I could have
happens
told you that. I thought my nose was
yeah,
in the book. Sorry, Dan.
yeah, exactly. But point being, that's all about healing. It's all about service.
Mm.
And it is also about, voila, learning to bring the spiritual into form. And so the doubt or as you keep saying, like, uncertainty about, is this really happening? Is this really happening? That's part of your process, because part of what you're here doing is helping other people feel comfortable. So if you know what it feels like to doubt that, then you can approach every retreat, every class, every course, every session, understanding at a very deep level that it feels a little odd. Am I really processing this? Is this really happening? And I really want to appreciate that. And it isn't, it's just your paths are connected deeply to the spiritual and to the physical. The Virgo is about the earth. It's about, being in this realm, and it's about healing. And so, anyway, I just had to say that.
Thank you. It's really beautiful.
That is really, really so many things there that you mentioned. Firstly, Janie, I found it really interesting, like you said, that you feel the different parts of the energy on your property. Because for me, there's one which you've ridden with me down the back to the where the ice hit there, that stretch of road. So many weird things have happened along that stretch of road, from green orbs to me thinking that something's crossed the track behind me. I thought it was the dog, and then the dog was in front of me, and it was snowing. And when I went back, there was no footprints. To the energy of the trees, it's walking along that track, that the intelligence of the trees hit me like I was just in tears, because it was so strong that, oh my goodness. So it's very interesting how you talk about landscape, because that part for me is almost like what do you call it, a way in, a portal. Something happens as I walk along there, and I love what you said, Denise, about we understand how difficult it can be for people to step into these realms. But because I've come from the really scientific background, I totally understand someone who thinks it's a load of whatever, doodah. So that's where you can.
Well done.
I'm being polite.
Well done.
I'm being polite, okay? It's the first time for everything, and I've just done it. But it's knowing what they feel, and you can really have empathy and understanding. And what you said then about, we know what we've experienced. One of my favorite sayings, and what I say to everyone, is my experience is my truth. So it's not a matter of it hasn't got a scientific validation. My experience is my truth. I know what I've experienced, and I have no worries if people say that's the biggest load of doodah out. It doesn't matter, because I know what I've experienced. And again, Janie, what you said about the writing, that's what the horses do for me, is I feel an urge. I remember once I was literally peeling potatoes in the kitchen and it's, oh my God, I've got to go and sit with a horse, and dropped everything, got the notepad, went down there, and it's almost like automatic writing. And so again, I always ask the question, is she the conduit, i.e. it comes through her, she's giving it to me, or is she putting me in the place to receive? So she's just taking me to that energy of stillness or whatever it is, but so I can hear. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm just, typical scientist. I want to know which it is. But yeah, so there's so beautiful. And thank you, Denise, for those words about, what we're doing and how the work sort of crosses over, because it feels, I mean, I still think that Jane's 12,000 miles away from me. We have to speak every day. Like, it's not
There's a
true, is it?
reason for that. Yeah, your souls came in with both the desire to learn and grow in similar ways, in different ways, because you're different people, but your souls came here to learn and grow in similar ways, and also to be present for others, because it is a path of service. Your souls chose a path of service.
I had
And
an idea on the weekend, and sorry, people listening into it, right? If you're like, oh my God, is that what's coming? Because this is the worst idea ever. Where one of the things that's always been a curiosity to me is, on the one hand, I have this fascination, and not to turn this into a self-therapy session, but just to share this with you, fascination with the body and how the body works and the nervous system, and the very functional, mechanistic, which in and of itself is just intertwined with mystery and magic, because there's so much we don't understand. And how does that even happen? Like all of this just incredible workings of the body. But there can be a tendency within those conversations to be reductive. So this is, you are a nervous system, you are this is the response that is like pre-designed as a part of your makeup. And to me, as a consequence of needing to learn that, you dive into that place and you filter out anything separate to that for a period of learning. And then you emerge on the other side of it going, yes, but also, yes, but also, yes, but also. And how does the but also fit into this conversation when it's not necessarily so explainable? And to me, I heard someone talk about their process where they work with in a psychotherapy setting, and they use a lot of writing from the perspective of giving the people that they're working with a different perspective. And I thought I could do that a little bit. Like, we could share, I could write, or I could share some of my writing about what people have experienced, and not in a sense of this is curative in any way, but perhaps like this will give a different perspective, and then this as well. But like, just as a kind of like emergence of everything that we're talking about. Something I read as well, which I found very beautiful and tied into what we were talking about, what we arrived with, was, and forgive me for forgetting his name, he's a psychotherapist in the States, I believe, but I think he's of Polish origin. And his particular brand of psychotherapy is about helping people find meaning in their experience. And so oftentimes they're right at the end of life. And it came out of this conversation he had with someone where the gentleman in question was like, I just want to die now. Like, I want you to help me die. And he only had a certain amount of time left, but he took it upon himself to say, just give me 3 sessions. And how is it that we can find meaning in what it is that's going on that would allow you to want to live for the time that you have left, even if it appears like what you've attached meaning to outside of yourself is no longer something you're able to access. And what came out of that in the conversation when he was being interviewed was, it would be really easy for you to say, the reason for my work started at the point where I had thyroid cancer when I was 25. That would be the most obvious point of the beginning of this story. However, the true meaning was far beyond that, where my parents were both escapees of the Nazi regime, where they moved to the States and started up a life and had survivor guilt and had why did we make it guilt, and had this need to share with other people who were in positions of great tragedy and trauma and misfortune. And he said, that's what I arrived with. My legacy was as a helper. And I thought and that's the beginning of my story. He said, if you really want the beginning, that's the
Yes.
true beginning of the story. And it just got me thinking about all of us have an obvious beginning. Oh, it was this, it was that. But it always is well beyond
Love it.
that. And I love that. And I wrote about it. I wrote this unfinished poem at the moment where I could see the women in my matriarchal line and they were pouring into the womb like, this is the gift of anxiety, and this is the gift of sadness, and this is the gift of unmet longings, and this is the gift of, and this is what you bathed in, and this is what you arrived with, not as a poison, but as a means to find your calling, right? And I think that's just a very beautiful thing to consider. How do we separate the pain from the gift so that it becomes transformed into something that is useful for us all?
I'm
So
so glad you shared that. Oh my gosh. So are either of you familiar with Hellinger's family constellation work? Have we
Yeah,
talked
you.
about that
I've
before?
done a
We've been through that.
constellation.
Mhm.
There one. Yeah.
But that's the premise really of that work, is that we arrive with all of it. And the idea when you engage in that work, and this is something I trained in many years ago, and I love bringing it in when I can, is that in order for the love to flow, in order for the gifts to flow, we do this connecting to the ancestors. We do this connecting to beyond ourselves, what we arrived with. And it's just, there's such depth in that work. And I have seen tremendous healing happen within self when we can acknowledge, like you were saying, like, what did you arrive with? What is the legacy?
Mm.
And then really, you're both scientists. You both understand this. If you think back 4 generations prior to each of us, whatever our ancestors were going through 4 generations ago, that's made, I mean, if we just stay at a DNA level, that's made its way to us in these bodies that we have, these vessels, what they were going through back then. So somehow we're arriving with their story. But then what's my story? What's your story? How are we going to bring all this together? What's the healing that wants to happen? And in constellation work, you get to send the healing back down the line, and you get to send it forward to your children and your grandchildren if you have any. So,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
That's so, and there in all of that comes about how we help people change perception, because they have the story and they think it's this, and then when you can dig into it and help people see things from that different perspective,
Yeah.
then they see a different story, and then you can step into who you are and what you're doing. Me doing what I am, which is, from my point of view, absolutely what I'm meant to be doing. There is nothing else that feels right. It's just, I'm so grateful to be in this place, being able to do it. I look back, 20, 30 years, and it's like, really? That this was the path I was meant to take? And yet when you look back and you see all of the little triggers and the sliding door moments where you could have gone here or you could have gone there, and you see the path forming before you. But, for me, it took one big change on one weekend for me to go, okay, now I understand. And I suppose it's part of my work as well is about trying to help people find that aha moment of what's their purpose, what's their passion, who are they? I do something called Gateway to You, because it's now, okay, let's sit down and use the tools and see if we can find who you are. And just what you're saying, that relates back then, way back to how many generations before that it comes through. Oh, it's so beautiful, so powerful, that.
And I like the image too. Thank you so much, Kathy, for saying that. And Jane, this idea of pouring in the gift. What is the gift of anxiety? What is the gift of the challenges that we're working with? And it's such an incredibly powerful question, because it's there. So we might as well ask the question. what is the gift in that? You know, there's a lot of sorrow that moves through my family line. There's a lot of sorrow. What's the gift in sorrow? And again, because my North Node is in Cancer, so it's different than your Virgo. That is part of my path, to examine what's the gift in the emotions. How many times have people said to me, "You're so emotional. You're just too emotional, too emotional. You're too much. You're too this, you're too that."
Yeah.
But what if that is exactly what we're supposed to be?
Yeah.
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 Who says we're not meant to be? Yeah.
Yeah.
John O'Donoghue, who you may or may not be familiar with, he
Yes.
passed
Love,
away.
love.
Yeah. And I'm misquoting him, but he has this beautiful caption that says, "The great wonder of the world is not that water was turned into wine or the parting of the Red Sea, but the great wonder is that there's something instead of nothing." And I just thought, it's just so true, isn't it? Like that, the fact that it's just so strange that we're here. If you really think about it on a it is so strange and mysterious that we're all here, that we get to go outside. And if you look at it through that lens, it's like, wow, how did this happen? This is incredible, really, if you really just get to the base of it. And the magic is in the mundane, the everythingness of everything is just blows my mind. It's like, wow, if you really take notice of just the minutiae and the detail of our environments, it's mind-blowing.
It is. And if that's the woo, then let me
Mhm.
live there.
Yeah. But there's such an arrogance. We've developed such an arrogance to consider that communication is isolated to humanity. I mean, what an arrogance. If we're honestly believing that, then to me, that's the weirdness. I'm like, yeah, it's
Really?
but
That's
how
that's
did
the
that
way
be? Really? Like,
we just taught dominion over everything.
yeah.
And I truly believe the rocks have consciousness. It's a different one from us. Everything is conscious as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, from the earth as a whole to every single creature, plant. And
Yeah.
it's slowly coming out. It's slowly coming out. One of my most recent books, Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. That's mind blowing, because he talks of the fungi network underneath and how that is actually controlling our lives, not us. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be here, basically. And it's just another level of knowingness of, okay, that's another which we didn't know before, or we didn't step into. And when you start really opening your brain up, as you said, Jane, it's just mind blowing how it all fits together, or the connections between everything, how one feeds the other, how the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, the trees. I mean, just that in itself is, oh my God, that we are part of them, they are part of us. That's the other thing, the exchange of, on the science level, in that respect, it's, yeah.
It's for me, so it's mind blowing. Yes, 100%. It's also for me, and so I'm speaking from my little North Node path here. I always say, and I don't want to assume everyone's seen the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, back from, but I always feel like my heart is expanding 3 times and this is how I feel, like physically, in a good way, not like in a bad way, but like when I'm looking outside right now and the green of the leaves, like who does that? Who does that?
Yeah.
And when I tune into that, my heart is like literally like the Grinch, it's exponentially expanding into this. It's overwhelming. It's almost overwhelming. It's overwhelming, but it's not. It's like, it's overwhelming, but it's truth. It's real.
And it's
So,
relationship, right? Like you feel
yeah.
exchange then, like that you're a part
Yeah.
of something that's like a
Yeah.
bigger vessel. We've talked about what diminishes or what we need to like separate ourselves from, but what sustains you? What do you find sustaining in moving through the world? What do you seek out? What finds you that you're like, yeah, this is the thing, right, that I want to be hooked into. This is the IV line for me.
Yeah.
You guys. Conversation.
Like I said, totally selfish endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, nature for sure. I'm just recently now living in a place. I've been living in a really urban environments for so long that I'd forgotten what it was like. I mean, when I was young, I, we had a big piece of property, an orchard. There was a corral. We didn't have horses, but I wanted them badly. That didn't happen. But once, life changed. Well, you never know. Life could go a lot of ways right now. So, closer every day. But traumas happen, changes happen, our life path changes, that it all gets altered. So urban environments from the time I was about 9 until just now. I mean, we're talking many, many years. And yes, would I get out in nature as often as possible? Absolutely, 100%. But having conversations with, this is sustaining me and on a very deep level. My meditation practice, my womb space practice, deepening into the feminine, the divine feminine. That's my sustaining practice, the one that I love to share and teach. And but ultimately, it's what we just talked about. Like, I'm gonna cry. It's see, because I have the North Node Cancer. That who did this? It's like so, and that we are a part of that. Every cell, every molecule, what is this? What is this? This hand that's made up. I mean, it's going there. It's being in a moment like this where we can together collectively bring that to the surface. That is so nourishing. So yeah, that sustains me.
I love that.
Kathy?
Very similar. When you see a vista and it takes your breath away, you almost can't breathe because it is so beautiful. I'm so blessed to live where I do that I get sunrises and sunsets. And I never, ever, ever take anything for granted because everyone is different. And that's my news feed is filled with photos of sunrise and here's the sunset. And there's another sunrise. But it just captures you. And I also remember reading one time, again, this might be completely off piece, but it's not what it actually is. But when you feel that emotion, or when you see a vista, or you see a tree, or you see the greens, because I so understand everything is this beautiful greens out, and it gets you emotional. It's remembering something. It's remembering who you are, or remembering the place you've come from, and that's what draws you in. It's the oh my God, there it is. So for me, yes, being outside, the horses, this work is my sustenance, if that's the correct word. Yes.
Yeah.
In that people say to me, do I get tired when I work? No, because I'm in the energy. It's innate. It feeds me just by being in it, because I'm not doing anything in the sense that there's a system of this has to be done and that has to be done. And I have to feel this and have to feel that. And as I said, every modality I believe is there for a reason. So it's not like, oh, this is better than anything else. It isn't. It's just who I am and what I do. But I just feel that the being able to utilize, sit, connect, it's almost like a recharge every time.
Yes.
And the fact that my hope, my intention is that it's helping the system I'm working with. It's a double whammy, It's a win-win.
Yeah. Sustainability, right? I mean, and where we can find it in ourselves and in ourselves.
Yes, we don't
Ourselves
need
and in
something
ourselves.
else. Cells
Yeah.
and cells. Yeah.
Selves and selves. And I think that maybe that's why my life path led me into really urban environments where there was more concrete than anything else, right? Not big cities, because I don't do well, as we know, don't do well in big cities. But concrete areas, or, where there's just less of this beautiful land, because I think my path has been to, and again, to just connect here. What is the home here? Where is the sustaining energy here? We are magic. I talk about magic, but we are the magic. The fact that we're here, like Jane was saying, I mean, it's like the fact that we're here is what, you know?
What the
So,
hell?
I know.
Happen?
How did that even happen? I mean, right now there are these two blue jays out here just hanging out and chatting and doing their thing. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, but again, coming back to self, and I think that both of you working very specifically with the bodies, right? And really, that's where I think for me, the deepest sustainability has been to have a practice that is a body centered practice. So, kind of bringing it back to it doesn't ultimately, we learned this. Was it Viktor Frankl, who is the one from the
Man's search for
uh,
meaning.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is really, how can I be the temple for which I can go in and find the sustaining life and
Mm.
energy and inspiration? That's a practice for me.
Yeah, sustaining. I definitely as well. Nature is like huge. That needs to be like the overriding container that I dwell in. And horses, definitely. The actual physical action of riding as well is something that is very nourishing and sustaining for me, as well as the connection. But there's something about the experience of riding. I actually wrote about that the other day. Maybe I'll read it, but it sounds terrifying to read something out loud that I wrote. But as well, I love living near a hub of people, because I also find sustenance with people in similar, like we're talking now, like I wouldn't want to be too remote where I didn't have access to that.
No.
I love the arts. I love looking at what people have created. I love reading poetry and listening to audiobooks and listening to podcasts. I do find that really sustaining. I love clothes. I love jewelry, but not in a way of what is the latest fashion. I just love textures and colors and things that make me feel good. That's sustaining to me. And it's not about what I should be keeping up with. It's just about, I just love that.
Really, Jane?
I love it. I just love the colors, and it's just fun to me. That's a real expression.
Having been shopping with Jane.
I am my mother's daughter in that you can do a lot of damage with me in 30 minutes if you're focused.
Yeah,
and
totally.
you know where to go. Yeah.
I've
You
been
bring
well
up something.
taught.
Yeah. Art, beauty, music. Let's
Yeah.
talk about music. Music as an international, universal, perhaps language,
Yeah.
multiversal language. Frequency. This is what you work in.
Vibration.
Yeah. So what we listen to, what's around us, this is why birdsong for me is very healing. But and I love good rock and roll. So don't get me wrong. I'm not, just listening.
And I say
like
it because
this.
we compartmentalize what sustenance
Yeah.
means, right? To be
Yeah.
nature and the organic. And I'm like, no, I love clothes. Like
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
because it's of the, like you're saying, like the music, it's just sensual. It's
Yeah.
like there's something
Yeah.
else about that that's super fun for me.
It is. And I think, gosh, I mean, it's everybody's unique in this, but to find your way and to know it's your way, like to
Yeah.
know that that's what's good for you, and to know that's okay. Like
Yeah.
we're giving everyone permission. Like you don't
Permission.
need it, but you don't need permission, but please find your way to what is sustaining you. I love that you love clothes. I don't have as much of a closeness myself, but I love textures and I
Yes.
love colors
Yes.
and fabrics. Oh, yeah.
And I live close to the Antarctic, where everyone wears puffy black.
Oh,
So why I say that is I've stepped into allowing myself to look different in the street, not because I'm trying to look different, but because this is what I enjoy. And so,
yes.
and
It's also a different vibration.
it is, yeah. I even had a busker the other day go, oh, it's quite bright.
Good. Oh my gosh, that's great. I love that.
It's like, well, come to me if you want some hints.
Oh yeah. Fashion
But
tips.
Denise, you were talking about music. Literally this afternoon, I live in this most beautiful valley, and we had a male voice choir singing live in the middle of the valley, and it was just like, okay, yeah, this is it.
Heavenly.
It was just unbelievable to
Yeah.
have
I'll sing for
that.
you next time in the valley, Kathy, when I'm there.
Sorry.
I'll sing for you in the valley next time when we're there.
Okay. Okay. I believe I have earplugs somewhere.
I haven't even been trying when you've heard me before.
Oh, really? Oh, really? I'll warn the trees, okay? I'll warn them. Jane is on the, yeah,
They'll
whatever.
be like,
I'm
fold
sure.
in. Everyone fold your branches around.
Yeah.
Oh my
Lock your paws. Jane's on the wall, but singing. Yeah, absolutely. I'd
we
be
have
joining you, Jamie, because if I sung the whole, you'd watch the leaves drop off, going, "Oh my God!" So, yeah,
Should we look at the
no.
comments in case we've missed some questions? If anyone
Yeah.
has any questions, please put them in. Dorothy's saying, I trained in heart math, and I'm thrilled that Kathy is talking about heart math. Very cool. Vicky's saying we are organic beings and it's been drilled out of us. Yeah, absolutely. Yolanda's putting her vote in for the trees as well, which I equally agree. Naomi, oh yay, she's saying she's relishing this conversation, and thank you for having it. It's a pleasure, total pleasure. Like I said,
Yeah.
back to the selfish thread.
Thank you for
Totally
being there.
selfish. So much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Putting it up with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
That's-
for sticking
It's such
around.
an honor.
Really,
It's so
thanks,
much
not
fun.
us.
It really is. Vicky, my animals are telling me stuff all the time, and I got a cue for scratches the other day. Yes.
It's so great.
Yeah. Bridget, I've replaced woo with something I heard from you, Jane, that which is yet to be defined.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I figured adding all the extra words was apropos in my nod your way. I love that. Feel free to add all of the extra words. Thank you, ladies. You're mystical and magical and fabulous and gorgeous, and I want to squeeze you both.
Hopefully
Someday
get to-
soon. Yeah,
Yeah.
someday soon. You two are going to see each other soon, I think.
Yes, in
So
July.
that's exciting.
We will see you in
Okay.
November at the
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's sustaining me to
Yeah.
know this.
Yes, Denise is part of the Next Journey On podcast summit, so she will be speaking.
Yay.
Excited
And
about
we're going to be her cheerleader.
it.
Yes, they're
Oh,
going to
give
help
me
me
an E,
through.
Give me an E.
Thank
give
you.
me- And it's complicated. But
Give me an N.
We'll just laugh. All we have to do is laughter yoga. Laughter.
Exactly.
I just make everyone
Exactly.
laugh and then we'll be good. We'll be good.
We'll be fine.
Thank you so much, Jane and Kathy, and all the people here. We could go on for hours. And so I'm just so appreciative just to have this time.
Yeah,
So
me
beautiful.
too.
Likewise.
Thank you, beautiful people. And you know what today is? I wasn't going to say this because I'm not sure why. But today I'm picking up Ada, who is my foal, who, when I lost Bear, I asked Tracy if she had any, put me on the list, I said, thinking it would be a few years' time. And Ada is Bear's half sister. And so she said I wasn't going to sell her, that because of the circumstances and everything, you're welcome to, she's yours if you want her. And so I went to see her, and she's been weaned, and today she comes home. So I'm about to leave here and jump in the car and
so
pick her up.
exciting.
Yeah, which I'm a little nervous about, picking up baby horses. She hasn't traveled before, all of those things. So I think I was a little guarding of her given everything that had happened to Bear in the narrow. But I'm like, you know what, let's just celebrate it. And then whatever happens, happens, and we'll all be together in that anyway. So
Step into it. Oh, good luck, honey.
Yeah.
You have,
yeah, so it feels very
photos.
fortuitous that we had this beautiful conversation on the same day that she is coming home. That has put me in good stead. Yes.
Oh, all right.
Thank you, Jamie.
Can't wait to hear more.
Adios,
Thank you, everybody out there.
Bye.
Just
Bye.
good.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye.
Thank you for hanging out with us today. It was amazing to get to spend time with you. If you're interested in following up with either of these fabulous women, you can contact Denise on her website, www.deniseelizabethbyron.com or email her directly, denise@deniseelizabethbyron.com. I'll also put direct links in the show notes. If it is Kathy you are after, you can contact her via her website, Kathy Price with a K, Kathy, price.co.uk. For me, you'll find me on my website, confidentwriter.online, and you'll also find all of the details of my membership joyride there. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I will catch you on the flip side.